That's actually a commercial for life insurance. And unless you couldn't read the subscript there, it says, what does he get in return for doing this every day? He gets nothing. He won't be richer. He won't appear on TV. He's still anonymous and not a bit famous. What he does receive are emotions. He witnesses happiness. He reaches a deeper understanding, feels the love. He receives what money can't buy, a world more beautiful. And in your life, what is it that you desire most? Believe in good. So I've been thinking a lot about our journey with the Year of I Am and the words that we have chosen. So I decided that every week I'm going to speak about one of the words. And actually, because we have so many words, some of the words work really well together. So today's word is I am loving, which is Tessa's word. Some have chosen love, so I'm reeling that in. And also light. I am light. And I remember when we first started with the Year of I Am, and I was talking about choosing your words. I talked about choosing a noun, something that is energy, not something that you do. And when I talked to Tess about why she chose loving instead of love, she said because it's action, because it is the doing of loving. And I thought, how wonderful, and now that I know Tess better, how perfect that she chose it like that. It's very much who Tess is, right? So I've been thinking about this, being love, as opposed to loving, doing the love. Because we assume, I think, that love just happens. It's something that we feel. We feel it when we're with certain people. We have that with our loved ones, family, friends. I have many friends that I love just like family. All of you here, sitting here, I love all of you like you're my family. And so it does become more than just a feeling, but sometimes when we're in the midst of life, we think that love just comes, and sometimes it does. You know, we all meet people from time to time where all of a sudden you just have that spark with them. You're fast friends. Maybe love at first sight. But sometimes love is more of a challenge. And so this loving becomes important. Stephen Covey, who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, was doing a seminar. And a client asked him what he should do about his marriage. He said that he's tried everything and that there's no love left between him and his wife. The client asked Covey what he should do about his wife and kids. Have you tried loving her? Asked Covey. I've told you there's no love anymore, says the client. Covey reiterates, but have you tried loving her? The client begins to get mad before Covey explains, love is a verb. It is an action. You must do things for her, listen to her, be there for her. It's not about what happens in return, but what you do to love her. Love is a verb. Loving. So if we're going to step more fully into loving, rather than just waiting for that feeling to wash over us and make it all right, how do we step up in the world like the young man in the commercial, not knowing what would return to him? So an act of love, putting the near dying bush under the water, rather than just getting agitated about the water. Giving money to someone begging, not knowing where the money was going to. Leaving fruit on his neighbor's door. Feeding the dog. You don't know what you're getting back. Sometimes nothing comes back, or you're not aware of what comes back. And so he just continued to give because the woman and her daughter were there on the street. And then the moment that gets me in that commercial is when the little girl shows up in her uniform. And he realizes the money was for uniforms so she could go to school. What an act of love. Leaving something for a neighbor you don't know. Helping somebody across the street. How many times and how often do we just go through our day without extending love? And so if we're truly going to be loving, be an expression of love, yes, it's nice to just be able to be that, feel that within your heart and your beingness, and have that radiate to people. But to actually be the expression means we have to step outside of ourselves and extend ourselves in a way that either may not be appreciated right away, or we may not see what happens, and just love for the sake of loving. And yes, he did receive something in return. A smile that lit up on his face. The deeper understanding, that moment where he's in prayer, on his knees, bowing his head down. The happiness that he felt when he saw that little girl show up in her uniform. So yes, what we give comes back to us. And do we give, do we love, without expecting something back? Can we just be loving because that's who we are? At our core, and if we really embrace our divinity, if we really embrace who we truly are, we can be nothing but loving. We can be nothing but loving. You know, I had a quick moment of realization yesterday when I was thinking about doing this talk. And for half a second I thought, who am I to do this talk? And then had to circle back and become aware again of who I am and what I'm called to do. And that the thought of doing these talks on the words as we proceed through the rest of the year was something that was given to me a couple of weeks ago, and loving somehow was first. And so in that awareness, I had to think and know again that yes, it's all in here. That's the work we all get to do when we're just short of not wanting to be in loving expression. When it just feels like too much. Why do I have to do it again? Why do I have to be the one who extends themselves? I only have $5 in my wallet right now. I might want coffee later. Why do I want to give it to somebody who's begging on the street? I don't know what they're going to do with the money. They're probably scamming people. How many of us have thought that? And what spiritual principle says is, we are just to give and be the loving expression. It's not our business what people do with the loving expression we give. We are just to give. Because in a boundless, loving, abundant universe, there is always, always a loving response to what we give. We just may not see it. And so as we step out in our divinity, we must be aware that we may not get to see the result of our loving. We just get to love. We get to be the expression, and in that is our gift. In that is our lesson. And then we get to be the light for someone else, for the world. Because we are all energy, it all matters. It all has an effect. We just may not be in the right place at the right time to witness it. But we're still called. So where else can we be that expression of loving? Even in the face as the client talking to Covey. Even when you don't feel it back. Even when everything that you're getting back is so far from loving that it's a challenge to think of loving yet again. It was the Michael Beckwith quote that said, "What's feeling got to do with it anyway?" Just because you're not feeling the love doesn't mean you're not here to love. Because it's not about feeling. It's about being the expression. It's about giving it. It's about the action. Yes, again. Even when we don't feel it. So loving as a verb. As the action that we are, as the way that we extend ourselves yet again every day. Because the divinity doesn't turn off. The calling doesn't stop. We're not just divine beings on Sunday morning. (24/7) to be an act of loving. I know there are times when I think it's just going to take too much energy to do that right now. Especially as we occupy ourselves with our technology. But something else other than the technology is calling us to extend ourselves, calling us even to pay attention. Because sometimes the expression is the attention looking here to someone else. Seeing someone else. Really seeing someone else. Not just the cursory, "Hi, how you doing?" And not waiting for the answer. But stepping up to them Hi, how are you? It's so nice to see you today. Have a wonderful day. There are days when I don't feel like saying it, because I may not be feeling so wonderful in that moment, because all I'm thinking about is everything I got to do. And yet in that moment, we may be the only one who steps up as divinity, who steps up in loving expression to the person in front of you. You may be their only hint of divinity and love all day, all week, all month, all year. Yesterday we had our More Grace Living with Loss event. And it impressed upon me again how much people are carrying on a daily basis. How very much some of us are carrying, and you don't know. But in a moment, you may be the one who is called to be the expression of love for that person who's carrying a burden you know not of. Yeah. And it's a small thing, but it's also big, because in a moment of time, we could be the one who turns somebody's day around. Yes. You could be the one. Your expression. I'm reading a book now called 10,000 Sorrows about a Korean War orphan. A little girl whose mother had a relationship with an American GI in Korea. And he, of course, went back to the United States. And in their culture, that was very, very shameful. Not only to have a child out of wedlock, but to have a child by someone outside of their race. And so her mother was shunned, and later on was executed by her father and brother in an honor killing. And the child witnessed it. And then they sent the child to an orphanage where she was put in like a dog kennel, as the other children were, waiting to be adopted. And then she was adopted months later by an American couple. And even though she was no longer in a physical cage, she was in an emotional cage, because she did not go into a loving household. And so I'm about in the middle of that book, and it is heartbreaking to read. Absolutely heartbreaking. And the only moment of love and safety she felt was the gentleman who picked her up in Korea and took her on the plane to America, to the adopted couple. The only love she received her whole childhood. And so we may not always meet people who are there, but we don't know that. And so this call to love is so important. And we all have that superpower of loving. We all are called to step out to be the light, to be the love, to be the expression, and not just wait for the feeling to wash over us and make us feel good. Jesus called us to love one another as I love you. And what did he do throughout his life but walk around and serve continuously? And he loved those who were shunned by others. In fact, he sought them out. And people criticized him because of it. And he inspired and he lifted people up. The man at the pool of Bethesda, when he's laying on the cot and can't walk, what did Jesus say to him? Get up and walk. Telling him, you have that power. So sometimes our loving expression is to be the inspiration to somebody, to lift them up when they're in need, when they need to hear something positive from somebody. So perhaps our loving expression is a good word. It may not be a donation. It may not be helping someone across the street. Maybe it's just a kind word to tell somebody, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can be that. Yes, you can follow your dreams. Yes, I support you. Just a tiny bit of work. Work. Being called to love. So Tess, thank you for loving, for choosing that word. And so now we all get to think about this expression of loving. And that's something we do very easily here in this community. And we've talked about it before, and I've said it before. People want what we experience here. Be this outside of these doors. It's easy in here. It's reciprocated in here. But we're still called to be it out there. After Sunday at 12:30. All during the week. Even on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, when we may not be feeling as loving as we did Sunday morning. So can we be the expression of love? Will we? We certainly can. We know that. We know that it's here. We know that we were created for that, as that. The question is, will we? Will you be the love? Will you be the light for someone else?